Hi, dearest overthinker. Welcome to episode 7 of the podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about being alone. And I'm not necessarily talking about being single, ready to mingle, or as a choice being alone because you need to recharge and do your own thing. I'm talking about being outside of the social construct which is engineered for us to socialize. So, school, university, college, etc. So, I've been in a gap year for the last year, and when I came out of school as an extrovert, I was very jarred by the situation because in my head, I was like, who am I supposed to speak to now? I have no one to talk to, no one to interact with. Where am I supposed to exert all of this verbal energy I have? That's the best way I can come up with. It's like a capacity in which I need to speak a certain number of words per day, otherwise I'm mildly unsettled. And I didn't know it was a thing really until I spoke to my cousin about it, and I asked her, so like, is this a normal thing? Why am I so bothered by not being able to speak to people every single day? Why do I feel so depressed? And it's not even one of those depressions where I feel so drained or none of that. It was just like I just don't feel good. So she told me that it's something that was quite normal, and a lot of the times when people become adults and graduate from university, it's one of the things that loads of people struggle with, having adult friendships and having adult hobbies, because they're finally out of that system where they socialize and interact with people on a day-to-day basis. And while some people might do fantastically in these instances, others find it really hard, because people like me, because we're so used to being around people. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I think the first few weeks of my gap year were extremely heavy on me when I was forced to be alone. And even though I'm extremely type A, and I had a list of all the hobbies that I would partake in, and how many times I'd go in the gym, the split I would have, the sports I would play, where I wanted to travel to, which shows I would watch now, which books I would read, I was just held captive to nostalgia. I missed school, the social setting of school so much. And in the sense that I really liked how you could, people were making each other laugh, there was drama, you were always so entertained. And coming out of that, I kind of missed the farce of it all as well. I think everyone puts on a slight performance in social settings, at least as high schoolers you do. And I miss that. I miss feeling the need to behave a certain way in certain settings. And because now I was by myself, I could, no one cared. I didn't care about how I acted. I was just, there was nothing to perform for. And also, I was completely accountable for my time. So that made the procrastination all the more worse. I think that when you're in school, you can just say, man, I have a test next week, school's going on, extracurriculars, I just don't have time for my hobbies. But now I didn't have school. There's no longer any distraction, social distraction, no admiration to perform for, no approval to chase. And I think that learning to just be okay with it, not having something to constantly be there for you to, run behind, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And it allows you to sit with what you want and what, you want to surround yourself with. And over the past year, I've realized how important that is. Over the last year, I've really come to value being alone, not because I've reached nirvana and I want to sit under a tree in absolute silence, devoid of any human being, but rather I'm a very much people's person. That would actually kill me. I need 3 to 4 hangouts a week. It's rather that I appreciate being alone, doing things by myself, not because I'm just in that situation as a circumstance, because I choose to be. And I thought that I was really good at this back in the day, because I'm a hyper independent person. I do loads of things by myself, but it was because I've had to, or there was something that circumstance provided for me to do it alone. But I think solitude is a skill you keep on having to work on. That's what I've learned over the last year. And when people used to tell me like, oh, a man's greatest power, a person's greatest power is to sit with himself, and all evil of humanity stems from their inability to sit alone, I didn't realize what that meant. But I think I've somewhat understood it slightly better now. I think I'll keep developing on this, but I think it's just that ability to be completely comfortable with your own thoughts without any distraction, which has become so difficult now because of social media, because we're constantly broadcasted the problems of everything going on, all of the successes as well. So our brain is constantly stimulated, so we never have to confront anything any longer, and we always have an excuse for procrastinating on our hobbies and our ambitions. So yeah, I think solitude definitely is a skill that I will have to keep working on moving forward, and it's something that I've come to appreciate so much in the last year. A personal distinction that I had to come to make was the difference between personal space and doing things alone. A lot of the times I felt the need to be alone because I was sick of people around me, or that it was just a little bit much. So I'd be like, I need to be alone now, or you're just too overwhelmed by a social situation and that's why you pull yourself out of it. But I think doing things alone with the choice of having other people around you as well is because you enjoy your own company. And whilst I'm not saying that those things cannot exist simultaneously, yes, you can enjoy doing things by yourself and be sick of people around you. They can also exist separately, and they're not interchangeable in my opinion. And once you move past that initial discomfort of like being awkward and feeling judged for doing things alone, I think it's so liberating doing things by yourself. It's so much more fun in certain instances, because you don't have the added pressure of people having their own schedule that you have to work around, and you don't have to go to certain places just because other people want to go there, and you're just doing things based on what you like, what you want to do, and you learn a little bit more about yourself, which is so nice. And I think I was able to reap the benefits of being alone and doing things by myself and enjoying it while it was happening. When I went to Australia, I was fortunate enough to have that opportunity a couple of weeks ago, and I was there by myself. And it's a different sort of freedom to be completely accountable for your own time. No one can call you up and be like, get home, or what are you doing, come home for dinner. There is no structure to your day. You can do whatever you wanted. So I was having dinner at 4 p.m. some days, I was having breakfast at 11 a.m. It depends. It was based on what I wanted to do, and it was so fun. I could go see the sunset in the evening, and then I could wrap it up early if I was tired. I didn't have to work according to anyone else's schedule. I could meet new people. I could go wherever I wanted. And it was all fun while it happened. And I really like to think on this, because this reminds me of a TikTok that was floating around a bit ago. And I'm such a firm believer of it, because I think it's so poetic also. Is he fun to be around? Or am I just fun and he's just around? Bars. So I'm a TikTok warrior, so I know what's up. But I think that's so true. If you were to enjoy your own company and you were to think that you were, fun, like just so fun to be around, all instances around you would be fun. And even though that specific TikTok trend was in reference to men, I think that applies to every single person, every single interaction that you have. And isn't that the objective of most of the things we do? We want to have a good time, we want to enjoy it. Even like, at least they allude, we want to enjoy them, obviously. That's why we always find like different ways to make it a little bit more pleasurable. But I think that's why this skill is so important, because if you can make the things around you a bit more pleasant, wouldn't you want that to be the case? And this leads me to my next point, which I think is the most important point, especially when talking to young adults. It's that you become more selective. And I touched on this slightly when I was talking about you learning to be okay with your own company and enjoying it. Actually, so many times during high school and middle school especially, I remember being around people just because I was so uncomfortable in my own skin, and I wanted to do things just because other people were doing it, and I really craved company. And because of that, I had horrible friendships, horrific relationships, and I just had people in my space that were actually draining the life out of me. But I kept them around because it was better than being alone. And I remember there were certain people I literally wanted to unalive myself because of them. I wanted, like, it was horrible. Like, I would wait for like the clock to turn so I could say bye to them, but I would still like miss them when they weren't there, just because I hated being in my own skin. And I wasn't selective, so anyone could be there and I'd be okay with it. I didn't care how they treated me, how they made me feel, because it was better than being by myself. And when you spend more time by yourself and doing things by yourself, I think you become more selective with who you share your time and space with, which I think is so important. And you won't no longer will feel the need to share that with people who don't add any value in your life. Instead, they like drain the value out of it. And I think that's why, like, over the last year, I've had such good friendships with people I really, really enjoy spending my time with. And when I'm hanging out with them, I'm like, yay, I love life, you know? And I think that's how it's supposed to be. But I think that's so hard as well, right? Because it's so hard to draw that line where you're there for someone because you want to be there, and then you're there for someone just because you need them to be there for you back. You understand what I mean? So I think that's what cultivates really unhealthy relationships and friendships as well, because there's just this back and forth of validation, but there is no like contentment in whatever exists. Last but not least, exercising solitude as a skill allows you to stop waiting on other people. And I mean specifically waiting on other people's schedule to match align with yours so you can do something. And by no means, by the way, am I saying that not to do that when you want to hang out with your friends and family or whatever. Yes, 100% accommodate to do activities together and, you know, make each other's schedules work. I'm talking specifically in regards to you not doing something simply because you have no one to do it with. That's why you keep procrastinating on it. And once you become a little bit more comfortable with the idea of doing things by yourself, you do things even though you're a little bit more unprepared. You stop waiting for the most comfortable, perfect scenario and conditions. And I think there's a certain beauty in doing things unready without having someone there with you, reassuring you along the way. There's another beauty entirely in that as well. But doing things by yourself, just a little bit scared, a little bit nervous, just for the love of the game, I think it'll take you so far, because just without waiting for the perfect conditions to be in place, without waiting for the perfect schedules to align, I think, you know, you'll end up doing so much more. And over the last year, practicing a little bit of spontaneity with, you know, the entire bit of solitude has created so many lovely memories for me. And if there's anything I can leave you with at the end of today's podcast episode, it's do it alone. Do it when you're scared, do it when you're nervous, do it when you feel slightly unprepared. Just do it, because even though it might feel really like unnerving initially, eventually it does get easier. And there is the reward for like finally learning to do things by yourself and enjoying your own company is so great. It's completely worth the initial discomfort. So yeah, that's all I have to say for today's episode, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye bye.